People would see a lot of times fighting as an ugly thing, as a thing that denigrates the human being. In reality, you see fighting on everything. Everything's fighting. Doesn't matter what it is. You wake up in the morning, to get out of bed is a fight, believe it. So fighting is actually the best thing a man can have in his soul. Renzo Gracie. Nothing has such power to broaden the mind as the ability to investigate systematically, and truly all that comes under thy observation in life. Marcus Aurelius.
All right, guys, we finally have set up to do a podcast. Actually, I just had my son help me set everything up, so we're good. Nothing fancy, just really simple, but I've been wanting to do this. Thanks for all the support keeping my YouTube channel going, and I wanted to start really getting into doing podcasts. I was watching a video the other day between Coach Zahabi and Coach Greg Saunders, and they were talking about the ecological approach to training jiu-jitsu. And I found it really interesting. I really liked listening to it because both of them are having their own takes on it. And you look at Coach Zahabi, a very well-known MMA coach, has a lot of experience and has worked with a lot of really great coaches and fighters. Most notably would be GSP, George St. Pierre.
It's over. It's over, Joe. It's over, Joe. It's over, Joe. It's over.
George St. Pierre has done it. He is the new UFC middleweight champion.
Unbeaten in mixed martial arts competition, George St. Pierre.
He's a very strong guy, very physically strong, powerful, like you said, big for a welterweight, but his strength is wrestling. He enjoys taking guys down and pounding on them.
St. Pierre 2 times,
Nice left hook,
and
he's
there's a
rocked.
good left, and down
He's rocked.
goes Jay Huron. St. Pierre with a good couple of rights, and now really pushing the pace.
Huron might still be a little foggy. He's out.
Down. St. Pierre connects again.
Wow.
That
Good
one was right
recovery.
on the button.
Huron snapped back into consciousness just long enough to grab a hold of that leg. Tough guy.
Between Baroni and Huron in practices, Joe.
Huron's
You know,
off. He's
hit
still
those
off.
shots. And St.
He's
Pierre,
out.
down he goes. Has he got him?
Giving him a lot of chances.
The elbows are raining down. And it's over. It is over. George St. Pierre wins in the first round.
Very nice. George St. Pierre with a very impressive standing knockout victory.
Wrestling is very different than mixed martial art. Me, I'm a complete athlete.
What I liked in their discussion was how they discussed GSP's background as a karate practitioner and someone who had never really sparred where they were punching each other in the face.
Generally in boxing clubs, elite boxing clubs, if you mess a guy up, that's too bad for him. Like, they're very rough in boxing gyms. I have a real case study on that. George St. Pierre, he actually didn't do any head strikes because he came out of the karate background.
Yeah.
He did Kyokushin, where you can punch to the body, you can kick to the leg, you can actually kick to the face, okay, but it's harder to kick somebody in the face. You're not going to get hit to the head as often. And when you're younger, actually, no, they don't kick to the face. As you become more senior, they allow kicks to the head. So George came from a background where there's a lot of striking, distance control, all the stuff you need, and they don't hit pads as a karate guys. They don't hit a lot of pads. They do a lot of like forms, you know, like katas, and then they kind of do like a touch sparring or sparring that's to the body, so it's safe, right? They don't want these young kids getting hit in the head, and I do the same thing with my kids. Actually, I don't like them get hit in the head because their brains are still developing. Later on, when he became a professional fighter, we converted him to boxing. Now, because of his background in Kyokushin and hitting the body, he quickly adapted. Now, there was a time he wasn't comfortable getting hit in the head. It was very new to him. It was very new, but he quickly caught up.
And I've always believed that you can develop good fighting skills, practical fighting skills, and focus on skill development without having to get punched in the face. Perfect example would be looking at the Chi-Sao training method of Wing Chun, where, yeah, sometimes we do strike the face. Sometimes the arms spring out and will hit you in the face, but it's not the main focus. Our main focus is to get into the chest so that way you can trap the arms. I would like to use my experiences about this because I spent around 10 years straight solely focused on Wing Chun. So I stopped doing the boxing, I stopped the wrestling, I stopped the jiujitsu. It was just doing the Wing Chun. And in that time, I did zero sparring. It was just all Chi-Sao. And then I had some mixed martial arts friends who were professional Muay Thai fighters, professional MMA fighters in the 1FC. And we started sparring together. It was actually kind of funny because we had all started a martial arts gym in Central together. We're all teaching at our own prescribed times. It didn't work out because we all argued over the time slots. But anyway, my friend's sparring partner didn't show up, and he was like, "Hey, Chris, do you have some time? We can get some sparring in." And so the cage was empty. I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we get in, we do some sparring. We must have done like 10 rounds, and it was fantastic. Like, I didn't feel I had lost a beat, a step. I didn't have any difficulties with distance, and I was really surprised. And I liked it because I felt confident the whole time, and I was able to manage the strikes. I was able to manage distance and angles, my coordination, my synchronization. Everything was good. So much that we became normal sparring partners every week. So that also says a lot. I don't necessarily think you need to get brain damage when you are trying to become a better fighter, which is mostly how we did it in the old days. We just beat the crap out of each other. And then hearing Coach Zahabi talk about it, and then also Greg Sauter was mentioning the coach over at Primal MMA, and he was saying how they also don't do any striking to the face, and they use the ecological method so that they're sparring every day. I do this with my Wing Chun students. I do this with my jiu-jitsu students, with my Kali students, with my MMA students. I realized that I do it this way, but I didn't really have a definition for it, mostly because of how I was teaching my son. That's why I worked on changing my methods. I guess you could say I'm trying to look for that universal solution for all martial arts, to where the way that you're teaching it is always the same. As an example, in all my classes, I will say you need to focus on your base, your connection, your weight distribution, your distance management, your center line or your middle point, tension, timing, or how to hand fight, win head position, win hip position. And it's all the same thing when we're talking about standing or we're talking about being on the ground, whether it's a martial art where I want to strike or it's a martial art that I want to grapple and take down, where everything can be taught using the same method, just changing the objective. I'll put a link to the podcast where I was watching Coach Zahabi and Coach Saunders discuss this method, and so you can maybe implement it into how you're training, or at least allow some internal discussion for yourself to adjust how you're teaching and how you're developing your students as well as yourself.
Getting hit in the head can be either a limiting factor or a rate limiter to how quickly
Say
or
that
how
again. I'm sorry. Did you say rate limiter?
rate limiter. It limits the rate at which we can acquire skill, or it limits our ability to acquire skill. Getting hit in the head is one of them. So a good friend of mine, Scott Sabright, is trying to create a constraints-led approach training around not getting hit in the head and developing mixed martial artists and Thai boxers and kickboxers. And so how much can we take out hitting the head but still do play sparring and like live work and using other striking areas rather than the head?
I'll come out with a second part of this with more details if you guys find this interesting. I hope so. It's my first podcast, all right? So take care, guys, and thanks for watching.